These two simple mods are going to change your Satisfactory world forever. Not because they make the game easier, but because they finally let you build the way you want to. Without fighting the snapping system, without struggling for an hour to line up 2 foundations, and without having to compromise your ideas just to make things fit. For me, building in Satisfactory has always been about expression, trying to make something that feels clean, intentional, and architectural. And for the longest time, I just kept hitting this wall where the game just wouldn't let me create the shape that was in my head. I'd know exactly how I wanted something to look, but the tools weren't quite flexible enough to get me there. And that's where these two mods come in. Curve Builder and Infinite Nudge. The first time I used them, it generally felt like the game opened up. Suddenly, all those shapes I kept imagining, they were actually possible. So in this video, I'll show you what each mod does, how to install them, the keybinds I use, and how you can use them to unlock your full creative potential in Satisfactory. So sit back, grab a drink. This is Mod Showcase. Before we dive in, if you enjoy the creative side of Satisfactory, thinking about shape, structure, the flow of a build, feel free to stick around or subscribe. I've got the Design School series where we dive deeper into that mindset, and of course my full playthrough where all of this comes together in real time. So let's start off with Curve Builder, because this one removes a huge barrier that stops people from using curves in the first place. In vanilla Satisfactory, making a curve is painful. You're placing foundations one by one, making micro adjustments, rotating pieces over and over, and then even then, it never feels perfectly smooth. It takes ages, it's fiddly, and honestly, most people just give up and stick to straight lines because it's easier. Curve Builder completely fixes that. Instead of spending 10 minutes trying to build a single curve, you can generate a clean, consistent, perfectly smooth curve in seconds. You pick your start point, end point, adjust the radius, and it just works. No guessing, no fighting, and no awkward kinks or bumps. And because it's so much faster, you actually start using curves more. You start experimenting with shapes you'd never normally try, because now it's not this massive time sink, it's fun. You can follow the terrain more naturally, softer corners, great flowing walkways, all of the stuff that makes a build feel intentional instead of rigid. It's one of those tools where the moment you try it, you suddenly realise how limiting vanilla was. And then we've got Infinite Nudge, which is basically what the vanilla game tried to add, but only halfway. In Update 8, we got a tiny bit more control of how we place things, but it's still extremely limited. You can only rotate and chunky step, you can't do micro adjustments, and you definitely can't shift things by the smallest amount to get them sitting exactly where you want. It's helpful, but it's nowhere near enough if you care about the precision or cleaner shapes. This mod gives you the full freedom. You can nudge pieces in any direction, X, Y or Z. You can also rotate on the same X, Y or Z axis. And what this mod means, it means no more fighting the grid, no more almost aligned but not quite, no more tearing down half a build because something's slightly out of line. It's one of those mods where once you feel that level of control, it's really hard to go back to vanilla. So before you go rushing off to Satisfactory Mod Manager, back up your saves. Whether you play vanilla or modded, it's good practice to always back up your saves. Installing the mods is super simple. First of all, you'll need to go and download Satisfactory Mod Manager, and the link for that will be down below. So once you've got Mod Manager downloaded, you go ahead and open it up, and then it's as simple as searching for the mod you want, in this case Curve Builder, clicking install, and then same for Infinite Nudge. And then once they're installed, you can actually load Satisfactory from the Mod Manager itself. No complicated setup, no config files, it just works. So for Curve Builder, there are only kind of a few hotkeys that you actually use. One of them being obviously increase and decrease rotation just on the scroll wheel. We've got the increase separation and decrease separation on equals and hyphen. And that's just to increase the circle size, which I'll show you a bit later on. And then not shown in the curve builder here, but you also use R to kind of change the build mode. That's just kind of the vanilla keybind for that one. And then for infinite nudge, the big one is this tiny adjustment modifier key, which I have on right control, and this lets you do the tiniest adjustments, so you can literally align anything perfectly. And then the other two big ones for infinite nudge are the pitch rotate and the roll rotate, and this will just allow you to kind of rotate on the full X, Y, and Z axis. So just jumping into my playthrough world, kind of little spoiler there for episode 10, which is coming out next week. But I will quickly show you around the mods. So starting off with Curve Builder, just using the small concrete pillar, because if you're not aware, you can kind of curve quite a lot of blocks with using the Curve Builder, which obviously you wouldn't able to do in vanilla. So if you notice, the build mode is currently default. If you go ahead and hit R, that'll cycle through the build modes until we get to curve. And then over on the left hand side, we've got different modes for the curve builder itself, starting off with Zoop, which is, you guessed it, Zoop. We could just left click like you would normally when you're zooping, but as you can see, it starts to do this nice curve. And we can adjust the angle by holding caps lock, and then just using the scroll wheel, and that'll just kind of adjust the angle. So we've got obviously 0 degrees, so it's straight, and we can kind of rotate it all the way over. All the way until 60 degrees, if you wanted to do something that tight, I guess. And then the next mode, which I actually haven't used too much, to be honest, is the parallel mode. Again, very similar to the Zoop, but it does a parallel, obviously, arm as well, and we can kind of use the hotkeys to change that. So we can increase the separation distance to the original curve. And we can also add multiple zoops with the shift and plus and minus. So you can see you can quickly build a nice little rainbow. Then moving on to the build mode a lot of people are probably going to use is the circle mode. As you can see, it creates a perfect circle. You just lock that in place so you can actually see. And then we can see adjust the size of the circle again with the same plus and minus keys. And just to demonstrate, you can use any block really. You can do it with quarter pipes if you wanted to. Half foundations, literally any main building block can be used with this curve builder. You can see how like the shapes and kind of stuff you can do with this is pretty cool. So for infinite nudge, if we just go ahead and lock a hologram into place, and then we can use left shift to rotate on one axis, right shift to rotate on the other one, and then if we hold control, right control for me, and shift, we get these tiny adjustments. And that can be done on any axis at all. So you can rotate it however you want. It does get a bit tricky when you need to hold left shift and left shift and right control. I have to kind of hold the mouse in my hand, and there's definitely a better way of setting it up, but I think you kind of get the idea with that one. So I'm just over at my new power plant, which is, like I say, coming next week. So look away if you don't want spoilers, but also look because I'm about to show you how to kind of use this in a real world scenario. So what I want to do, I want to trim the edge of the foundation here with these pillars. I want a nice slight curve to it as well, and then obviously not overlapping at the front here. So we'll go ahead and lock the pillar into place, just nudge it across a little bit, and we can kind of get it into place properly once the curve is done. And then we'll rotate that. So if we just come above now, you can see obviously it's fine this side, but if I extend that, it kind of sticks out this side and doesn't kind of cut in nicely to this pillar. Obviously the X, Y, and Z changes kind of how you place the pillar. So right, it might be right shift to rotate one way, or it might be left shift. You just kind of have to play around with it until something works. So we'll go ahead and start rotating this using infinite nudge, just holding control to get them tiny little increments, just until that side kind of clips in nicely. It's looking pretty central, and then we'll go ahead and nudge it to the left a little bit, just so it's fully tucked in on that side. Just make sure that's in there, and then I think I just want to nudge it up just so the refinery isn't clipping through, which is this way. We'll just make sure that's all nice in there. Maybe just kind of rotate that a little bit there. There you have it. It might only be a 3-degree curve, but hopefully that gives you a bit of a demonstration on how these two mods kind of work hand in hand together. Now, like, they are, honestly, if I had to give this build a name, it'd probably be the Curve Builder Infinite Nudge Factory. Because every curve, oh, I'm showing too much, but yeah, this whole kind of factory is just sponsored by Curve Builder at this point. When you get these tools in your hand, the game stops being restrictive. You stop thinking about what you can't build, and you start thinking about what's possible. Suddenly you're looking at the terrain differently, curves that follow the landscape, structures that sit naturally, angles that guide the player's eyes. You start thinking in sight lines, balance, and composition. All the elements that go into making something feel beautiful and intentional. That's the jump from factory builder to architectural sandbox, and these mods are the bridge. So there we have it, guys. That's a full look at Curve Builder and Infinite Nudge, the two mods that completely changed how I build in Satisfactory. And once you get comfortable with them, anything is possible. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, I'd really appreciate you hitting that like button. And if you want to stick around and see me put these mods into practice, then make sure you hit the subscribe button. And honestly, if you ever get stuck, need advice, or just want to share your builds, I've got a really awesome Discord community building. It's a great place to ask questions or get feedback if you want to try some of these techniques yourself. As always, thank you so much for your support. We've only just hit 5,000 subs and we're already nearly at 6,000, which blows my mind. Thank you so much to our Patreon members. You guys are awesome. With all out of the way, I really can't wait to see you in the next episode. Ginge out.